Hey guys, welcome to another Facebook Live. I'm so excited that you were able to join me tonight. So before we get started, I just wanted to go over our agenda again. So last week we talked about setting up for success, and this week we're going to talk about strategies and activities. So I'm not really going to get into the anatomy of guided reading lessons tonight yet. I'm going to still share with you some things that you do before you're ready to start pulling those groups, and some decoding strategies and things that I sort of start pre-teaching the kids in some of my mini lessons, so that when we start guided reading groups, they already have some schema for those strategies that I'm going to teach them for decoding. And then next week we're going to talk about assessing and forming groups. So that's when we're really going to kind of dig deep and start really talking about how to place our kids in groups, what we need to look for, how we can use that data to see their strengths and weaknesses in guided reading and know exactly what we need to really hit on in those groups. And then on September 7th, we're going to talk about pre-readers. So those are our students that when we do those assessments, they know fewer than 40 letters. They identify fewer than 40 uppercase and lowercase letters. So what do you do with those kids in groups? So we're going to talk about that on September 7th. And then on September 14th, we're really going to dig deep, and we're going to look at guided reading lessons for level A and up. So that's when we're really going to get started in that. In those sessions, once I start talking about that, I'm going to be talking a lot about these units that Dee Dee and I created, the guided reading units that we have for all of the different levels. This one's the level C that I'm holding right here. But we already have so many things already planned out and done for you, all of the word work and everything. So September 7th and 14th is when we're really going to start looking at those units and picking apart lessons for kids at those levels. All right, so let me just one more time identify the definitions of guided reading for those of you, because I know in some areas that you guys don't do guided reading. So what is it? It's small group differentiated instruction that supports students in developing reading proficiency. So that's what our goal is, to develop reading proficiency and develop independent readers so that they can independently read even without us, books on their level. And it's small groups that are formed based on each student's reading level. Groups are flexible, which we're really going to talk a lot about in the upcoming weeks. And instruction is targeted and intentional. We're going to talk a lot about that as well in the weeks to come. I just wanted to remind you of that before we get started tonight. So what are we going to talk about tonight? Like I said, we're going to talk about reading strategies. Now, Dee Dee and I, in our units, and in some of the units that I have, they're called Beanie Baby strategies. And some of you have heard of those. If you've been teaching a long time like I have, you probably heard about them for the first time probably about 12 or 15 years ago. And they were actually created by a teacher. The idea for them was created by a teacher named April Shield, who has since retired. I don't know April. She shared these strategies on proteacher.net a long, long time ago, and so now they've just taken off. Everybody uses them. It was long before teachers paid teachers, so everybody uses them. There are many, many different versions of these out on the web with different spins on them. So I've kind of taken them and done a little different spin on a few of them. Some of them are very similar to what she created, and some of them are a teeny bit different. She was just a genius in creating these. So there's a lot of them that they didn't need to be changed. So the Beanie Baby strategies, they work so well for kids because when they can tie it to a visual cue to help them remember this strategy and what it is they're supposed to do, it really does help them. So we're going to be talking about the Beanie Baby strategies tonight. I'm going to share some of them with you, and I'm going to also share with you some activities that you can do during your whole group lessons that you're modeling with the kids, and that then they can do in center stations as well if you wanted to incorporate them into those. All right? I wanted to start again with this quote that I shared with you last week because, like I said, this is our true goal. So with literacy centers, when I was introducing those, my goal was for my kids to be able to work without me. Same thing with reading. When we do guided reading lessons, we want our kids, they're able to sit with us. We're able to really scaffold their learning through those lessons. But our hope and our goal is that they will read outside of our guided reading lesson, that they will take what we've taught them and they will be able to apply that independently without us, the teacher. So the greatest sign of success for a teacher is to be able to say, the children are now working as if I did not exist. Maria Montessori. So you're going to hear me quote that a lot in these sessions. All right, so let's get started. Let's talk about reading strategies. So reading strategies, whenever I teach reading strategies, it's systematic, explicit, and sequential. So I have a very explicit, systematic reason for what I teach, and it's sequential. So the strategies, as you're going to see tonight, they really do build on each other. So when I'm introducing a strategy, I go through several steps. One, I name it. I'm going to really go through this with you with some of the strategies. I name it. I name the strategy. Let them know exactly what the strategy is and what it is that they're supposed to do with that strategy. I put the strategy to music. I have a resource on Teachers Pay Teachers, and Jenny Kramer, Miss Jenny, some of you may know her music, she took the strategies and she put them to music for me. So it really helps the kids see, understand, and be able to sing. Oh, this is what we're supposed to be doing. I don't have any of that music to share with you tonight, but I will put a link down below so that you can download one of those songs for free so you can kind of see. You can create your own tunes and your own music as well if you're crafty with that. So I name it, I put it to music, I model how it's used, and then provide time for the students to practice that strategy. And then when the students are ready, I'll add another strategy. So continuing to really scaffold that learning for the students. So a lot of these, you're going to see us, if you have our guided reading units, you see that we refer to these strategies a lot. In the units, we explicitly tell you how to teach them, what it should sound like, and that kind of thing. At the front, there's a sheet at the front for each of those strategies. And we refer the kids to that all the time. Which strategy did you use? What helped you solve that word? If they can't solve it, asking them, where's the tricky part? What strategy could you use to solve that? We want them to independently, with just a little nudge and push from us, to be able to develop those reading strategy decoding skills on their own. Okay? So we really make sure that, that's why I pre-teach a lot of these strategies, so that when they come to guided reading, I'm not having to spend all of my time in reading group teaching a strategy. They already know how to use it. I can just remind them about the strategies before we get started. Okay, so one of the strategies that we teach, and I don't have a song for this one or any lessons for this one because this one's so basic, and we do it with, if you're doing pocket chart activities, if you're doing big books, they're seeing you use that pointer pup. So I want my students who are in levels A, B, and some C students, I want them to know that use pointer pup. You are pointing to the words so that I make sure they have that one-to-one correspondence. So that's one of the very first things we start talking about, is that we use pointer pup when we're reading to point to those words. And so I make sure I model that when we're reading a poem in the pocket chart or when we're reading a big book as well. Okay? The next one that I'll go ahead and teach whole group is Eagle Eye. Eagle Eye is a really simple but really effective strategy for kids who are early readers, because most of those level A books, and when I refer, guys, whenever I'm saying level A, level B, we use the Fountas and Pinnell leveling system. If your school, which is alphabet system, A, B, C, D, F, if you use the DRA system, it's a numbering system, 2, 3, 2, 4, 6. If you use that system, there are guides online that show you how the levels correlate. So it's the exact same levels, they're just, one is using the alphabet system, one is using numerical system, but they're the same thing. So Eagle Eye, look at the picture. So that's really important for students who are especially in like levels A, B, C, because those texts are very high, have a very high level of picture support. They're just learning to read, very basic, very beginning reading skills. So looking at the picture to help them solve the word. All right, so we will really practice that once I tell them, boys and girls, this is Eagle Eye, and it's really fun if you have little stuffed animal characters for them, but if not, even the posters work well, okay? And so we have them, once we've taught a strategy, we display it up in our room so the kids can refer to that as well. So here's an activity that I would do with Eagle Eye. I just have these sentence frames on cards, and the Post-it notes are covering up the words, because right now, what strategy are we using? We're using Eagle Eye. So I go ahead and I'll read the sentence frame with them. Boys and girls, we're going to read a story called I Like to Eat. And it's all about foods that, on the cover is a baby. It's all about foods that the baby likes to eat. Let's read these words together. I like to eat. And then I'll say, Eagle Eye helps us figure out the unknown word by looking at the pictures. What word do you think I have covered up? Now, bananas. What makes you think it's bananas? Because the picture tells us it's bananas, they all say. The pictures of bananas. Yes, I bet that word is bananas. Now, I'm not going to uncover it right now, and I'll explain that. Well, let me just go ahead and tell you why. I'm not going to uncover it yet because uncovering it and looking at each picture sound goes with the next strategy, which is lips the fish. So I'm not going to uncover it yet, okay? We're just going to go through the book. I don't think I have another picture on another slide. Let's check. Yeah, we're just going to go through the book, and on each page, we're going to talk about, I like to eat pizza. What makes you think it's pizza? What strategies did you use? Yes, eagle eye. I bet that word is pizza. So we just go through the book like that, and it follows the exact same sentence frame. So you can do this with any books that you have, or just type you out some really simple sentences that have a high level of sight words that they already know, that are easy for them, for you to point and read with them. Lots of picture support. Just cover up that word, okay? When we get to lips the fish, then we'll go back and check each one. So lips the fish would be the next strategy that I've taught. After we've used eagle eye for a couple of days and done a few activities like that, then I would move on to lips the fish. And lips the fish tells you to get your mouth ready to make the first sound, okay? So we want to get our mouth ready to make the first sound in the words, okay? So here's an activity I might do with lips the fish. Just give them an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and they have a little fish with a little cutout speech bubble, and I would say, frame the letter that says S. And so they would look, and they would frame the letter that says S. Frame the letter that would say P, and they're going to frame that letter as well, okay? So that's lips the fish. Another activity that I have lips the fish fluency cards, and literally on these cards, all they are alphabet cards. And so as I'm saying the cards, as I'm turning the cards, they're just really quickly saying, ah, buh, k, So we're just saying, getting our mouth ready and making that first sound. That's all lips the fish gets them ready to do, is just get their mouth ready to make their first sound, okay? All right, so here's an activity that we could use with that. We could go back to the book I showed you. I like to eat bananas. So I'd go back and say, boys and girls, do you remember the other day when we were learning about eagle eye, and he teaches us to, right? Look at the pictures. Yes, do you remember we said we thought this word was bananas? Let's check and see if it's bananas by using lips the fish to get our mouth ready to make the first sound. And I would just pull back that Post-it note and just show the first sound, and we would check to see, does it say B? Okay, so that's how I would use that book then to go on and teach the next strategy, lips the fish. Another one that's great for this one is just have simple sentences that you're going to read with them, and you're going to stop at that last, and they're just going to say k, right? A bat lives in a k. What do you think that word might be? Okay, they might say cave, they might say cake. If they said cake, this is where you can bring in the cueing systems, which is, does that make sense? A bat lives in a cake? Does it make sense? No, it doesn't make sense. So what do you think that word might be? And hopefully kids will have a little bit of schema about bats. And they would say, a bat lives in a cave. Oh, a bat lives in a cave. Does that make sense? Yes, a bat does live in a cave. Does it sound right? And by sound right, that means grammatically, is that how we speak? Does it sound right? Yes. Does it look right? Does that k match the sound that does that letter match the k sound that you said? Yes, so that word could be cave. All right? And I'm not going to peel back any other letters because lips the fish is really just getting our mouths ready to make that first sound. But I am going to use those cueing systems when they give me the word. Does it make sense? Does it sound right? Does it look right? Okay? All right, here's another one for lips the fish. I see a spider. And hopefully they're going to say web. So I see a spider web. Oh, I see a spider web. Does that make sense? Yes, I see a spider web. Spiders have webs. Does it sound right? Yes. Does it look right? Let's check that sound with the sound that you made. Whoa. Yes, it does look right. So getting them to start going on ahead and understanding and using those cueing systems. Okay? And we're going to talk a lot more about those in weeks to come. So if you're going, what is she talking about? We're going to really talk a lot about that. All right, here's another one for that. She likes jelly. Oh, she likes jelly. And I usually will go ahead and say and call out jelly. She likes jelly. And some of my kids are going to be like, that's not jelly. What do you mean it's not jelly? Why isn't it jelly? Because Miss Johnny says t. Oh, I love how you used lips the fish to get your mouth ready to make that first sound. She likes t. What do you think she might like? She likes toast. Oh, you think that word's toast? Does that make sense? Does it sound right? Does it look right? Okay, and then whenever I introduce the next strategy, which is Stretchy the Snake, and again, we're gonna do Lips the Fish for several days before I'm ready to introduce Stretchy Snake. And Stretchy Snake is the last one that I will introduce whole group, because Eagle Eye, Lips the Fish, and Stretchy Snake are strategies that readers of all levels need to know. They need to understand those strategies so that if they come to a word that they don't know, they know that, oh, I can check the picture. If that doesn't help me, I can use Lips the Fish. And sometimes I want them to just cross-check. Okay, check the picture, just like we did in jelly, right? The picture looked like it could be jelly, but I needed to cross-check that. And once I put Lips the Fish with Eagle Eye, I realized, oh, it was toast, right? And then Stretchy Snake helps them stretch all the way through the word. So now we're not just stopping at that beginning sound. We're going to keep checking, and we're going to go sound by sound and stretch all the way through the word that we didn't know to see if we can figure out that word. So that's where I would go back to all of those activities that I've already done before, and I'm just going to keep peeling back the next letter and the next letter and the next letter as we blend that and put those sounds together to stretch all the way through the word. And again, asking those cueing systems. Did it make sense? Did it sound right? Did it look right? All right, and then going back and reading those sentences. So like on this one, that's what I would do. So when I did it with just Lips the Fish, I just had the t showing, just the T. She likes t, but now I can peel it back. And when I would peel that one back, I'd make sure I peeled OA back altogether, okay? She likes toast. She likes toast. Right, she likes toast. Does that make sense? Does it sound right? Does it look right? Toast. And we would go through that word. Now you may have some kids saying, you didn't say that A. If they say that, that is a perfect teachable moment to talk about when two vowels go walking. Usually the first one does the talking. So you could underline that OA and let them know it makes one sound when you see OA together. It makes the sound of O. You may go back later in phonics and build a chart with OA words or whatever. Use those teachable moments. If nobody draws attention to the fact that there's an A there that I didn't say the sound for, I don't even really talk about that right then. I just keep going with my lesson. So she likes toast. So that's how I would use Stretchy the Snake. Okay, a couple of other activities with Stretchy the Snake. Give your kids Dollar Tree Slinkies. You can get them at the Dollar Tree. You can get them at Party City. Let them practice stretching out words with you, right? So stretching the first sound. So I would have a secret word on the board, and I'm just going to reveal it one sound at a time, one letter at a time. And as I reveal it, they're making the sound for the letter. Okay, so p-i-g, pig. Okay, so pulling it apart, and that's my sweet granddaughter Madison. She's 10 now, but she was 5 there. She's like, I'm not going to do that with my mouth, Dee Dee. It makes me look goofy. I was trying to get her to be my model, but so you see how it is done. For each sound that you're going to reveal on the board, they're going to pull it apart and then bring it back together once you've done it all. So p-i-g, pig. So all of that great teaching before you're ready to pull groups, letting them have schema for some of these strategies that all readers are going to need, already gives them lots of strategies in their toolbox that they could use during guided reading time. You'll see these if you have mine and Dee Dee's guided reading units. These are called Elkonin boxes, and there's a lot of research behind why these are great best practices. Lots of research behind these. These were invented like in the 1970s, and his name was something Elkonin. I can't think of his name right now, but basically it is phonemic awareness at its best, hands-on, pushing up a sound, pushing up a chip for every sound you hear in a word. So like if the word was map, it would be p, and then blending it, map. Once we've done that with them a couple of times, whenever they're ready, now our pre-readers, we don't usually add in the graphings. We don't have them start writing letters yet. But as soon as they're ready for that, we'll start putting a letter attached to that sound. So then we'll push back the chip one at a time and write the sound that's represented in that box. So using a lot of these types of activities too for your kids to really work on the strategies and see how they really help them in reading and writing. Reading and writing is so connected. So some of these things that we do for reading decoding strategies really does help them in their writing as well. Okay, here are a few other activities that you can do for, do I have any of these right here? I don't. Okay, I thought I had some right here to show you, but you can see kind of how they work. So they're just going to point to each sound. G. Notice there's that OA with just one finger touch under it because it makes one sound. So G, O, T, goat. And then they can take that clip off, open it up, and see if the picture matches the word that they said. So again, ship, you'll notice that the digraph has one touch because it's one sound. So sh, I, p, ship. And then they can open it up and see if it matches. So whenever you do the Elkonin boxes that I showed you before, let me go back to that for just a second. Whenever you do these, and once you get into higher level reading groups, you wouldn't do them with level A's or B's, but once you start working on digraphs and those vowel pair combinations, SH would be one box, so it would be one ship, so sh, I, p. And in that first box, they would write two letters together, the SH. Same if you were doing goat and it has that OA combination, it would be G, O, T. So they would write G in the first box, OA in the second box, and T in the third box. So just to give you an idea of how to support your upper level readers when you get in those groups as well. Okay, did I get through everything with Chunky Monkey? Yes, I did. All right, so those are the only three that I'm going to introduce, teach, and model. Teach and model, teach and model. So I'm doing several lessons over several days with each of those strategies before I add on another one. And each time I'm teaching them, let me go back to this for just a second. I want to teach them how all three of those strategies connect. They all connect because we're using lips the fish to make that first sound, and then we're stretching all the way through the word, and then what are we doing? We're checking to see if the picture matches. Okay, now the pictures aren't always going to match the words, obviously, but in early, that's how we're teaching them on this one. All right, now check and see if the pictures match, because sometimes Eagle Eye will give you a clue as well. So you're putting it all together to see. So just showing them that those strategies, you're not always going to use just one strategy. A lot of times you're going to use several strategies at once to help you figure out an unknown word. So we really spend a lot of time, like I said, working on Eagle Eye, lips the fish, stretchy snake. Then whenever we start pulling our groups, all of our groups already have a lot of schema for that. They're ready to hit the ground running with that. So our next strategy is Chunky Monkey. And I don't usually teach Chunky Monkey until they're like in a level C. Sometimes not till level D. It really just depends. As soon as I feel like they're starting to see text where they really need to be able to look for chunks they know, which usually is in level C, I will introduce that the Chunky Monkey strategy. So Chunky Monkey helps teach them to look for chunks that they know. And again, when I'm ready to teach this strategy, I'm going to teach it outside of text to them first. So say I have my group of level C readers right in front of me, and I'm going to say, boys and girls, you have been doing such a great job at using the reading strategies that you already have in your toolbox. Today, I'm going to share with you another strategy that you can add to your toolbox. This is Chunky Monkey. Chunky Monkey helps you to look for chunks you know. Let me show you what I mean. So I would have this pocket chart, and it has this mixed up word, right? And I would ask them, can anybody figure out that word? And they're all looking, and they're all trying. You can see smoke coming out of their little brains. They're just really trying to figure it out. And can any of you? If you figure it out, put it in the comments. I want to see how quick you are. So can they figure out that word? I give them just a little bit of time. Nobody usually figures it out, right? And then I show them this. What about if I chunked it into chunks? It's still mixed up, but is it easier to figure out now? Can anybody figure it out now? And usually somebody will figure out that it is stinger. And we talk about why that was so much easier to figure out. And it's because it's chunked into parts. So when you have an unknown word that you absolutely cannot figure out, In words, you can look for chunks you know. Let's look at another way that that works. Let's look at this word. So I have my ring of Chunky Monkey word cards, and so we're going to look at them. I'm not going to tell them what the word is. They're going to have to help me figure it out by looking for chunks they know. Now, and is one of the first sight words we learn early on. So they all know and. So, oh, I see and. Oh, I see and too. Let me circle and. Does anybody see anything else? I am the king of ing. We do that from the very beginning. Whenever we start Writer's Workshop, we talk about king of ing. So ing, oh yes, we know ing. All right, so let's see if we can use stretchy snake now to stretch through that word using those chunks. We're going to read that chunk as a whole chunk when we stretch through the word and see if we can figure it out. You ready? St and ing. St and ing. What's the word? Standing. And they get it, standing. And so I have several cards on that ring, and we go through like 3 or 4 examples for me to show them how to do that. Then I'll give them a card that has a word for it, that has chunks that I know that they know. And each kid gets the opportunity to practice it right then, looking for chunks you know, and seeing how that can really help you when you see words that you have no clue what it could be. It's another strategy that would help you. All right, so here's another example. I love using sentences to help them, and I love creating sentences that really helps them put all of those strategies together. So already I'm going to ask them who sees some words they can read. They're going to read my, is, at, my. They're all going to read house. Oh, you all knew house. How did you know house? Eagle eye. Eagle eye. Okay, it does say house. But how do you know that word wasn't cottage? Oh, you use lips to fish. Yeah, so you cross-checked. You looked at the picture and then you made the first sound. You're right, it is house. Let's look at this word. How can we figure out that word? Does anybody see some chunks that they know? And so we would talk about, oh, I see and. Yes, I do see and. Does anybody see anything else? No? All right, let's try to see if we can read that and figure it out by using stretchy snake and chunky monkey. My grandpa, and hopefully somebody's going to say grandpa, right? And if not, I just keep reading it like that and go on to the next word. My grandpa is at my house. And then somebody's going to say, grandpa. Oh, yes, my grandpa is at my house. Does that make sense? Does it sound right? Does it look right? Could that be grandpa? Yes, it does. So using those cueing systems to cross-check as you're teaching them the strategy. And I know I'm like a broken record. I've probably said that 5 times, but that's just so important to really make sure you're using that language. Does it make sense? Does it look right? Does it sound right? It's so important because as they're reading, you want them to start noticing if they make an error, okay? And if you're not really calling their attention to it needs to make sense, it needs to sound right, and it needs to look right. If you're not a broken record and you're not calling attention to that over and over, that's why if you notice, if you have readers and you're doing a running record on them, which we'll talk about next week, but you're doing a running record on them, they'll make an error that absolutely makes 0 sense whatsoever. It couldn't possibly be that, and they don't even notice it. They just keep reading it. It's because they aren't using those cueing systems. They don't realize, oh, I made a mistake. I need to ask myself these questions, and then I need to figure out how to fix that mistake. So really doing that early on from the very beginning will make a huge difference. All right, here's another sentence, okay? So I'll show them this and say, what do you notice? Any words you can read? And they're going to be the, is, for, my. Somebody's going to say soup. Wow, soup is a really tricky word. How did you know soup? And so again, talking about, we use eagle eye, we use lips of fish to help us figure it out. And then they may say, and I stretched through and I saw that it ended with, yes, the plank is for my soup. Let's see if do we know any chunks that will help us figure out this word? And so hopefully you've already taught a lot of those word families, and not just stopping with those CBC word families. We need to be teaching other word families, the OC family, the AC family, some of those higher word families as well that have, digraphs in them and that kind of thing. So you want to make sure you're really teaching those, the UC family, but be careful. So AC, oh, we know AC. All right, let's see if we can figure out that word. The cracker is for my soup. So they really start getting so excited because they really have strategies. that they can use to help them figure out words that they don't know. They have a variety of strategies in their toolbox now. Okay, Flippy Dolphin is the next one. We usually start doing this one level D because it's definitely a higher level strategy. It's one that they really don't even encounter usually until they get in those level texts that are like level D and above. So Flippy Dolphin, and that is that you flip the vowel sound. So if you read a word, let me give you an example so I can explain it a little better so you understand. So like if I said the night was Brav, the night was Brav. And I know that, oh my goodness, okay, I see a night. So eagle eye is telling me that's a night. I'm using lips the fish, brr, and I'm stretching it all the way out, Brav. I know have, so I see that av in there. But it just doesn't make sense. And it doesn't sound right either. Because Brav isn't a word, I don't think. You see how you're modeling it, you're thinking out loud, you're wanting them to do that as well. So Flippy Dolphin helps us to know if a word doesn't make sense, and it really doesn't even sound right either. Sometimes they'll sound right though, but if a word doesn't make sense, what can I do? Well, sometimes I can just flip that vowel sound, and that'll help me. So if it's a short A, I'm going to flip it to a long A and see if that helps me. So the night was brave. The night was brave. Yes. Does that make sense? Does it sound right? Does it look right? So do you see how Flippy Dolphin helped us? Whenever it was a short vowel, we just flipped it to the long vowel, and that helped us figure out the word. Because, you know, our English language is so tricky. We teach our kids that if we see an E at the end of the word, it usually means that that vowel in the middle says it's long sound. But that's not always true. In have, in give, there's a lot of other examples. So if a kid is familiar with the word have, they've got, oh, I see a chunk, I see av, and they could get stuck and not know how to figure it out. So teaching them, just a strategy you can use, try flipping that vowel. Sometimes that will help you, sometimes it won't. But try that first and see if that works, okay? Skippy Frog is one that we use when none of the other things have helped. None of those other strategies have helped. Eagle Eye didn't help me. Lips of Fish didn't help me. Stretchy Snake didn't help me. Chunky Monkey didn't help me. Flippy Dolphin didn't help me. So what can I do? What can I do? And this is where a lot of kids get stuck. They have no strategies to use. So some of them will just do this and look up to you and wait for help, right? Or they'll just sit there and just and keep making that first sound over and over again until you're like, ah, right? So letting them know it's okay. If you don't know the word, skip it. So I'm Skippy Frog saying skip it, skip it. If you come to a word and you don't know it, just skip the word, read all the way to the end of the sentence, and we'll come back. So skip over it, read to the end, and come back, because maybe there's something else in that sentence that's going to help you be able to figure out that word by thinking about what makes sense, what sounds right, what looks right. So for example, on this sentence, if they encountered this sentence and they didn't know the word birthday, right? So on my, because they might not be really looking at that cake yet, right? On and my, they've been able to figure those words out because they already know those. Those are in their sight word bank. They know those words. They've not had to do anything other than, it's really easy for them. On my, so they may not have even really looked at the picture yet. Now, if you've done a guided reading group, you've talked to them about doing a picture walk first. But a lot of times if they're out reading at Reader's Workshop and they're reading books independently, sometimes they just kind of oh, I'm a reader, and they just start reading and they don't really pay close attention to those pictures yet. So the first word that they encounter would be birthday, and that might be a little tough for them if they hadn't skipped over it and then gone, we will eat cake. Oh, the picture is cake. On my birthday, we will eat cake. So sometimes skipping that word, reading to the end, and then coming back is a strategy that they need to let them know, hey, it's okay. If you've used all these strategies and you still can't figure out the word, here's what you do. Just skip over it, read to the end, and come back. And again, making sure that you're asking themselves, teaching them to ask themselves, once they've supplied that word, on my birthday, we will eat cake. Does that make sense? Yeah, on our birthdays, most of us eat cake. Not all of us, but most of us, we eat cake. Let's check it. Let's use lips the fish to get our mouth ready to make the first sound, and then use stretchy snake to stretch through and see if we can figure that out. On my birthday, hey, I could have used chunky monkey in there because I see a word I know. Does anybody else see where we could have used chunky monkey? Yes, day. Oh, I see another place we could have used chunky monkey. Does anybody else see it? And so they'll probably say TH. Yes, we all know that. So on my birthday, we will eat cake. On my birthday, we will eat cake. Does that make sense? Does it sound right? Does it look right? Okay. Here's another one. So this one, whenever I've had kids do this one, most of the time nobody gets it. And so that's where it's a great way for me to go ahead and introduce the next strategy to that group as well. Because sometimes Skippy Frog still doesn't cut it. So a lot of my kids will go, the pig. Someone will say, oh, I know, oh. You know, some of them will get it, but most of them don't. The pig, so we're just going to skip it. The pig blank in the mud. And if they don't get it, I'll say. Now, if they get it, that's where we end. Yes, wallowed. How did you know wallowed? What helped you figure that out? Does it make sense? Does it sound right? Does it look right? But if nobody in the group gets it, I'm not going to just give it to them, right? So that's when I would say, boys and girls, do you know sometimes even all those strategies don't help us? Sometimes even with our best efforts of using eagle eye and lips the fish and stretchy snake, and Chunky Monkey and Flippy Dolphin and Skippy Frog. And I have all of these up here behind me on my guided reading group so that they can see them. They still don't help us. They still don't help us figure it out. So let me share with you one strategy that we just use just when nothing else works so that we can just go on and keep reading. We don't want to just get stuck on a word. We want to try our very best when we come to a tricky word to use our strategies. But if nothing works for us, Try and Lion is our friend, and he can help us out. And that is try a word that makes sense. So think about what you've read, and think about a word that would just make sense. So here's where you would use that strategy. What word would make sense there, guys? Rolled. The pig rolled in the mud. Yes, the pig rolled in the mud. Does that make sense? Do pigs roll in mud? Yes. Does it sound right? Yes. Yeah, that's grammatically correct. Yes, that's how we talk. The pig rolled in the mud. Does it look right? Yeah, I see a pig, I see mud. So cross-checking it with the pictures, that definitely works. The pig rolled in the mud. Good job, guys. So when you come to a word and nothing else helps you, use try and Lion by just thinking about what makes sense and putting a word there and moving on with your reading so that you don't get stuck. Okay? All right, so hopefully tonight I've kind of shared with you a lot of different strategies that you can use for decoding, because decoding is one of the most important skills that you're teaching your kids in guided reading group. Comprehension is very important. We do a lot of work with comprehension. But if you're using a guided reading program or you have guided reading lessons that you've purchased and they don't hit hard on those word attack strategies, somebody didn't do a very good job of writing their plans for those units. Because your job at guided reading is to help your kids learn and understand strategies that they can use when they come to a word that they don't know. That's really what guided reading is all about. Getting them to be able to use word attack skills to help them be able to work through words that are tricky. Comprehension is really important. In our units, we do have comprehension questions, and we talk about different comprehension strategies. But for the most part, we are really hitting hard on those decoding strategies and what a reader can do when they come to words that they don't know. Because like I said, we want them to be able to take what we've taught them and use it independently without us. All right, so I'm going to check and see if there are any questions. I also want to say to you guys, thank you guys so much for, I know a lot of you knew that my daughter Taylor was in the hospital because she was having some problems with her pregnancy, and a lot of you have been messaging me or you've been putting in here that you've been praying for her. I want to thank you guys for that, and I wanted to just, while I'm looking for the questions, I wanted to give you guys an update on that as well. Tomorrow she's 37 weeks, so they're inducing her in the morning. So we'll be leaving here at 4:30. I'm not a morning person, mercy. We're going to be leaving here at 4:30 in the morning for her to be induced. So if you guys would just keep praying that everything goes well. The doctor has told her that it could take 4 to 5 days, worst case, because there are so many things that they have to do and prepare her for before they're ready to give her the Pitocin. That sounds terrible, 4 to 5 days. So if you guys could just pray for her, I would really appreciate it. All right, let me see if I can get in here and see your comments. Okay. All righty. Let's see. Thank you, Donna. Thank you so much. How much time do you take to do this? Okay. How much time do you take to do this? Well, it really depends on which part you're asking me about. So I told you that we teach those first 3 strategies in mini lessons, just one at a time, and we're spending several days. You know, if my kids aren't getting it right away, I might spend a week on the strategy. But they can just be pretty quick 7 to 10 minute lessons. Not very long at all. And by 7 to 10 minutes, I don't mean that they're listening to me rattle on for 7 to 10 minutes. I mean, I'm doing a mini lesson. I'm explaining to them the strategy. I'm doing a couple of examples showing them how it works. And then right there in front of me, I'm giving them an opportunity to be actively engaged with the strategy. It might be stretching it out with the slinkies, or it might be, you know, doing another thing like that. But I want them to be actively engaged with the strategies. And remember, it's only those 3 in my teaching whole group. Once I start pulling guided reading groups, our guided reading groups last about 20 minutes for those sessions. If you don't have time for 20 minutes, 15 minutes is better than nothing. So, but we spend about 20 minutes. Somebody's asking which resource on TPT has these items in it. So all of the songs and all of the activities are in my guided reading strategies and activities unit on TPT that I've had on there for a really long time, before Dee Dee and I even wrote these units. The units that Dee Dee and I wrote that we're going to be talking about in later weeks have all the books and everything in it. But this is just all of the activities that I share with you tonight. And a lot of them you can make yourself. So again, I don't want you to feel like you have to go and buy anything, but I will link the resource down below as soon as I get off here, just because some of you have asked for it. But somebody asked resting. Yes, she's on total bed rest until tomorrow. Thank you for the prayers. Okay, I don't know if I'm just not able to see all the questions, but I don't see any questions. So what I'll do, I'll make sure I hop in the group. As soon as I sign off here, I'll hop in the group and I'll answer everybody's questions. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope that this was helpful to you. I know it's taking us a long time to actually get to the lessons, but I really wanted to make sure that I break down every single little bit of it, so that you know, those of you that feel like you have been struggling with this really understand it and really can hit the ground running with it by taking it just little bits at a time. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you next week. And hopefully I have a sweet little, well, I will. I have a sweet little baby to show off, so I can't wait to show you him next week. You'll have to make a little guest appearance. So, all right, thank you guys. Have a great night.